Okay, folks, this is my update to the AIDS virus. Now, just remember, what you hear now is going to be very disturbing. One, I'm going to use the calculation known as the birth year death rate. What that is the number of people born in a given year versus the percentage believed to be infected with a virus or bacteria, and then the number that actually die of the virus or bacteria, and the percentage of those that are afflicted that die. The AIDS virus in 2010 killed approximately 40,000 Americans, mostly men, gay men. Well, the estimate of the number of gay men in the population of that birth year was roughly little over 80,000 men. So that means on the birth year calculation, that's 40,000 into 80,000, which is roughly half of the men who entertained homosexual activities in that birth year actually died from the AIDS virus in 2010. If you figure, well, hey, there were 4 million people in that birth year born, where do you get the 80,000 from? I got the 80,000 from half of those, approximately, of the 4 million men and women born. There were about 2 million men, times that by the rough estimate by the CDC of 4% homosexual people, as far as the men are concerned. So 4% of 2 million is 80,000. So that's where I got my 80,000 from. The 40,000 came from the CDC. That means half of the people of that birth year that would have died in 2010 actually died of the AIDS virus that were homosexual men. I went and backdated that information to the early 1990s with some non-governmental information. It turns out that in that time period, they had slightly fewer born, but they had roughly about 200 to 300,000 homosexual men in the United States at the time, in any given birth year. And they had the same roughly 40,000 casualty rate figure, which meant at that time they had a 1 in 5 death rate, which was roughly 20%. As you can tell, in 20 years, that more than doubled. The death rate is now over 50% of the homosexual male population in the United States. So if you become a homosexual in the United States and you're a man, you have a 50+% probability of dying by the time you're 40. So it's hitting them even harder now than it was then. Medication is helping, but we're seeing a huge drop-off, both in the numbers as a percentage of the population of any given birth year that are homosexual males, and we're seeing in the last few years, we're starting to see a decline in the death rates because there's a decline in the number of homosexuals. I can just imagine, if you look at South Africa's figures, theirs went down from something like 360,000 in 2009 to like 270,000 by 2011, if I remember my statistics right. So it's hurting almost everybody who's involved in that type of activity. Well, Thomas Wills here. Have a good one.